6 matches to go. Sorry,
Two more.
two more matches to go, and 2 games. As in, there's no other game, right? Hello and welcome to CricketOMania. The question we're asking is today whether India can bounce back from 2 colossal defeats in Australia. 2 more matches to go. We don't know which way it could go. Or can, as some people are already saying on social media, to the question we asked, there is no chance whatsoever.
I won't say
Ayaz,
that.
Memon?
I won't say that, Govind. I think both the first two matches were actually run quite close. However, what is of concern to me is that India seemed to be in a rut. It's always been a case of so near yet so far for a long period of time. And after a while, the cliche loses its poignancy. Poignancy comes when you feel that hard luck luck has gone against you. But here it seems to have become a habit. So in crunch situations, you're just kind of not coming good, and you end up losing a match which you could have possibly won.
So we'll come down to the specifics as to why this happened and if there are some lessons or commonalities between both on the bowling and the batting side. Chandresh?
I have no hope for the side now because this is the point on an
So
overseas.
you're like this gentleman who says no, never, and there's someone else who says yes. If you stop covering them, maybe.
No, but I think we've reached a point on this tour, like on previous Australia and England tours, where things start to go horribly wrong for India, and we've reached that point now. And in the first 2 Test matches, we had our chances, like Mr. Memon said, we didn't grab them, and now we are in a familiar situation right now that we have been in the last 3-4 years on overseas trip. This is the point when things start to go horribly wrong for India, and I am afraid that things are not going to improve from here for India.
Okay, so let's now dissect the 2 matches in retrospect. According to you, were the key reasons why India fell off? Because the first one, it was not so bad. I mean,
the first one we lost by 48 runs, and the next one we lost by 4 wickets. But I personally feel that it's been the inability of the batsman to come good. We have a
good
we've got an inexperienced bowling attack, which is not getting enough help in the field. You keep dropping catches, and you drop Steve Smith at a small score, and he goes on to make a big 100. Then you are up against it. Now, if Australia is making 500, and which has also got an fairly inexperienced batting lineup, then you would expect India to score that much.
Between Australia's inexperience in batting and India's in bowling, which would you?
Well, I mean, depth of experience of Australia is a little more, but they've been more vulnerable than ever before. They've had the Phil Hughes' tragedy to overcome. They've lost Michael Clarke, their captain, because of injury. So they have been vulnerable, but we've allowed them to get off the hook. And I think it's both times, one bad session with the bat cost us the second match, 1 hour actually. And, the inability of the batsmen, apart from Virat Kohli, to stand in there in the first Test match, make those 48 runs, you could have won the Test match.
So you're saying it's more a failure of the batsman than the...
I think it's a failure of the batsman.
Okay. So in that case, it would be fair to say that the bowlers have done better.
The bowlers have done as well as one would have expected them to do.
Okay. Chandresh?
I look at it slightly differently. I think that it's the last 4 players, both in both the Test matches, it was the tail which let us down by not capitalizing at crucial moments. And the same thing happened with the bowling. The same bowlers failed with I don't expect them to turn up and score 100 every time they bat, but I think there's not been enough effort from the lower order batsmen to stay on and ensure that the good work done by the top order is taken care of. But more importantly, I would say that it's the failure of someone like Rohit Sharma to kick on and get a big score, which has hurt India the most. The number 6 spot is the
Rohit Sharma, Mahendra Singh Dhoni goes for a blob, Virat Kohli goes for 1. I mean, that's not the tail. That's your, that's the crux of the batting.
While saying that the lower order has not been rallying around someone like a Mahendra Singh Dhoni, or
you're saying that even the middle to top has not failed.
Virat Kohli failed in both innings in the second Test match. Shikhar Dhawan, for one reason or the other, we didn't come out to bat on the 4th morning, which is now becoming an issue. Cheteshwar Pujara has had some bad luck. No, I'm saying it's been
he was someone we were looking forward to.
It's not been a very cohesive batting performance. Now, if you want your tail to give you 100, 150 runs or even 75 runs, it's not speaking too highly of the top order.
Right. Okay.
But I think someone like a Rohit Sharma has to stand up now.
But
I
he's
think,
not the tail.
But it's not the tail. But I think he needs to be the rallying point around the tail, because he's in the position what VVS Lakshman is in.
In the sequence of hierarchy of sort of causes for defeat, you would place the failure of the tail order?
I would place the failure of the bowling and consequently their performance in the lower order, and then Rohit Sharma as the top three reasons. Because I think that Rohit Sharma comes in at a situation where Virat Kohli, Ajinkya Rahane, Vinli Vijay have set the foundation, but he's not able to kick on and get the scores required from him.
Right, and this is in your mind unlikely to change for the next two tests, given your earlier.
Yeah, I don't see that changing at all. I see Suresh Raina coming in place of Rohit Sharma, but it will be throwing him at the deep end without any cricket in the last 1 month.
Okay, Ayaz, are you equally pessimistic or optimistic as the case may be?
Well, my concern is a little more broad-based. I think we are lacking the sustenance to last 5 days. We saw it happen in England. We had a terrific test match at Lords, and then after that we couldn't last 3 days. So we played 5 days in the first test match here. On the 5th day, we kind of fizzled out. And the second test match, we lasted barely 4 days. And it just seems to say that there's not enough bandwidth for the players to play test cricket. Our one-day record
continues to be
very, very good.
Yeah.
But you look at the test in South Africa, you were in a position to beat them, you couldn't. You lost the series and came back.
So, but as we discussed on this show, Ayaz, after England, Ravi Shastri and the whole emphasis on, at least seeming emphasis on test cricket and an attempt to sort of salvage something. No, nothing seems to have borne out of that.
Well, we played longer than we did in England.
Okay.
But we haven't changed the result. So in terms of time spent in the middle, yes, I think we've shown aggression, sometimes aggression for the heck of it. And I think that, apart from the hype and the hoopla about Indian cricket, there has to be some kind of ultimately a result. From 2011, every time we've gone overseas, you just don't seem to produce a victory. Now that's not good enough. Even New Zealand, they went to West Indies and they won. They went to UAE and competed hard against Pakistan, almost won.
Right.
We are just not showing the same resolve.
Okay, but you're saying that all other things or factors equal, we've actually done better than England.
We've done better than England so far. So if you just look at the scoreboards, yes, certainly. We've competed hard.
Yeah.
We've come close.
Yeah. You agree with that?
Yeah, on the last two, we couldn't even score 300. So at least in this first two test matches.
So on the larger sort of, larger arena of test cricket, then we are clearly advancing.
Marginally better than the previous tour of Australia.
Yeah.
Marginally better than what we did in England. Stayed longer. But I think we lack a long-term, like you said, long-term vision for test cricket. All our focus seems to be about the Cricket World Cup, which is coming up in February, March. As Stuart Clark said before the start of the series, a former Australian fast bowler, he said that if India doesn't do well in the test matches, no one will bother if they win the World Cup. So all our focus seems to be the World Cup right now.
So let me bring up the other point, that the Indian team seems to have been whining, right? And an Australian paper called Dhoni a wine man, right? And they're whining about pitches, the facilities, the umpiring. Are we bad losers or have we become bad losers?
I think we're just spoiled.
Okay.
We're spoiled by too much adulation, too much money perhaps, too much attention. So when you move out of your own kind of comfort zone, which is playing in India, then everything seems to seems to be a problem. Next we'll be complaining about the heat because we're playing in Australia in summer. We complained about the cold in England. You can't grip the ball and you can't do it. And this is something which is not new, Govind. Complaints have been there since the time I can remember. So I think
they increase when
they increase, and I haven't seen too many people complaining when they come here about the heat in India or the humidity. They take it as one of the challenges. So practice pitches, they are not good enough. This is the first time I've heard of Australian practice pitches not being good. Somebody not getting vegetarian food, therefore he is not able to bowl well is something I can't. And walks off is something that boggles my mind. So I think we just need to kind of put our noses to the grind and say, come what may, we want to win. I think that's where champion teams and champion players stand up. They cope with adversity and setbacks and obstacles. That's what sport is all about.
Correct. Yeah.
You don't have a controlled environment which says everything will be done to make sure you win.
So has the wine quotient gone up this time? I know that while we may have improved our performance vis-a-vis England.
Well, I think so. And also I think that, as you said, there's not much. I think there's not much pride about doing well overseas. You look at the generation of Tendulkars and the Dravids and the Lakshmans, they wanted to do well overseas. I tend to feel that this generation believes that all the respect gets earned by playing well at the IPL. So what's the big deal about doing well overseas? That feeling needs to change, and only then we'll be able to get back the mojo, as you say, abroad, which we had in the early part of 2000s.
Right. Okay. So here's another comment. Simple Man says, I mean, whether India could bounce back, and he says it's inversely proportional to the bounce of the pitch. So there's some interesting comments coming in today. Huh?
But it's a very cliched approach to how India fare overseas, that we haven't done well playing on fast, bouncy pitches, which is actually not true.
Yeah.
In the first two matches, we've done rather well, barring that one spell from Mitchell Johnson in the second Test match. And I think it just came like a tornado. And 1 hour later, it seemed like the pitch was back to its normal state again. So I think it's more to do with the mind than just about the pitch. I think by and large, India have coped much better against the fast bowling. I thought that we would be swept aside by Mitchell Johnson and gang, much as England were. That has not happened.
Okay.
So there is some hope in that fact that you've gone out there and made some runs.
Right. Okay. So let's address the last question now. The last broad question, at least, is 2 more matches left. What needs to be done? Ought we to do? And is there hope? I mean, okay, I know Chandresh has already taken a position that there is no hope. But having said that,
no, I mean, look, you can't win the series, but you can square the series.
Yeah.
2 Test matches in Melbourne and Sydney, they're not going to be easy because psychologically now you're down.
Yeah.
The Aussies are on top.
Yeah.
But they're still vulnerable. They've got one of their players injured, Mitch Marsh. Another one comes in, Michael Clarke, I think, is still going to be missed. So India need to keep up the aggression that they've done, but they need to be a little more focused. I mean, the game plan, even in the first Test, Karan Sharma, who was being hit all over the park, was, I think, persisted with far too long by Virat Kohli, who was captaining in his first Test match. In the second Test match, they tried to get Mitchell Johnson out on the short pitch delivery, and he was hitting you all over those guys are used to playing on fast and bouncy pitches. So I think some tactical improvements need to be made. But more and more, I think that it's all about in the mind. You keep aside all these practice pitches and vegetarian food or non-vegetarian food, and go out and play to win. Okay. And I think we are losing out on crux moments. You drop a catch at a key position. You drop a Steve Smith. And then what the hell? Virat Kohli in the slips is not 1/3 the fielder that he is in the cover. He's a brilliant fielder. But in the slips, he's very ordinary. So we don't have a slip fielder.
And no, why is that? So no, if we were to fix this for the next 2 matches, what?
So next 2 matches will be difficult to fix a slip fielder.
Yeah.
Because you haven't created slip specialists.
Okay.
That's one of the jobs of the coaches and the captain. And over a period of time, you can't decide on the start of the tour that these guys are my great slip fielders. It doesn't happen. So overall, the fielding has been better than earlier, but not great. The batting has been very good, but not great. The bowling has been better than ordinary, but not great. And I think in my opinion, this Australian team is not great. We should have beaten them. They're missing a few key players.
Exactly. So, I mean, Dhoni keeps saying, or he said, that basically what was lacking was experience. He said the players are young. If they bat more, they play more, they'll get more experience, and they'll be used to these 20-minute kind of situations where everything kind of caves in.
I'm afraid that I would have believed that even about a year and a half back, but I feel that you can't keep on saying it for 4 years, 5 years. David Warner has as much experience as Virat Kohli, Cheteshwar Pujara, Rohit Sharma, and the like. So why is he doing better than your players? So I mean, your best players performed when they were young. Gavaskar made 774 runs in his first series. So it's not that it's only about experience or inexperience. It's also about focus. It's about desire. It's about deep ambition that I want to go out there and be the best.
Okay.
Unfortunately, very telling comment. We may be the richest cricket country and the cricket board in the world, but we are not the best.
Okay. And Chandresh, what's your sense for the next 2 matches?
I think the next 2 matches are going to be like an acid test for someone like a Dhoni as a test keeper. I think that time for a change in test matches has long gone. I think we should have made the change in test matches. If India doesn't do well in test matches, in the next 2 test matches, I for one think that it's time for Dhoni to go as a test keeper. I think it's time for someone like a Virat Kohli. We need to invest in somebody, have a long-term vision.
And separate the two.
Separate the two.
I think Dhoni might decide that himself.
Yeah.
Because ultimately he'll look at his own record. It's gone from brilliant to very, very mediocre, at least in test matches.
Okay.
But I think that this is the moment. If we don't grab this moment, then Dhoni as a test keeper would be history in my view. And I think that
So when you say, okay, so that's the challenge on him. But what in your mind should he be focusing on, the 2 or 3 things to make sure, or at least try and ensure that we don't see a repeat of Adelaide and Brisbane?
I think he needs to be, like you said, he needs to be a little more smarter. When I get a feeling that when the 6th wicket falls, he starts thinking like a one-day captain, thinking that it's the 45th over and he needs to save runs, and that's where we lose the plot most often on overseas trips, especially in the last 3 years, because he no longer has the Zahir Khans of the world to back him up with his plans. So I think that he needs to get that back, and I think someone like a Ravi Shastri needs to get into his ear a lot more and get him to talk more about strategies when the tail starts wagging, especially like they did in the last test match. I think that's where we seem to lose the plot, especially with Dhoni in charge in test matches. I think that's where he needs to improve.
Right. Okay, Ayaz, last word.
I think that they need to kind of make it a mission. We keep talking, this is the election season in India, we've been talking of mission this and mission that. They should make it a mission to square the series. I think the way the trend suggests that both these remaining test matches will be decided. We'll get a result unless it's, the weather plays spoil sport. So there will be one team which wins and one team which loses. Now India have to make sure that they're the team which wins both matches. If you can square the series from this stage and come back, then I'll say, hey, that's terrific, because it suggests a massive turnaround.
Right. So, but what's the one thing that could be done differently? I know what you've talked about is more the infusion of energy and the infusion of winning spirit and so on. But is there something else?
I think really
approach, technique.
I think you need to try and outbat Australia. Okay. And if they make 300, you have to make sure you make 350. You have to get that little edge ahead of them, because you don't have the firepower in the bowling. But if they have that kind of belief, the bowlers, that we've got a little more runs to defend than Australia had, it might just spark off some, great performance.
Right. And a great performance is something that we look for. That's all we have time for on CricketOMania. The question we were asking is, can India bounce back in Australia? Well, the consensus seems to be it's going to be tough, but we do, of course, want the Indian team to square off at least and hopefully keep the Test cricket flag flying for a little longer. We'll be back next week, same time. Thanks for watching.